market analysis for medtech and life science startups. Today, we are unpacking the market analysis, a make or break skill for startups in your space. Over the next several minutes, we'll guide you through understanding your market, segmenting it strategically, and crafting actionable plans to thrive. We'll lean on principles from Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey and fresh industry data to equip you, whether you're a surgeon, inventor, or founder, to position your startup for success. Let's dive in. Start with the basics. Your market is your buyers. These could be hospitals, outpatient clinics, academic research labs, or solo practitioners. To avoid misjudging the market, ask yourself some of these questions. Number one, who are your customers? Are they rural clinics or urban teaching hospitals? Number two, what do they need? Are they looking for cost savings, improved patient outcomes, or streamlined workflows? These are just several examples to consider. For instance, rural facilities often prioritize affordability due to limited budgets, averaging $1.5 million annually per hospital, while academic centers chase cutting-edge innovation to attract grants. Pinpointing this shapes your product and pitch. Segmentation is how you cross the chasm, the gap between early adopters and mainstream buyers, as Moore outlines in Crossing the Chasm. He splits the adoption curve into 5 groups. You have your innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. The chasm sits between early adopters and early majority, where many startups falter. Take the Segway as a great example. Its self-balancing technology wowed innovators in the early 2000s, but high costs and infrastructure gaps killed the mainstream adoption. In medtech, your chasm might be the FDA delays or clinical skepticism. So to start, segment your market with these lenses. Number one, geographic. Are you targeting regional networks, such like in South Dakota, or global hubs? Secondly is demographics. Focus on decision makers. Hospital administrators, for example, need data-driven pitches. 3, psychographic. What motivates them? What is the cost reduction, patient safety, or prestige? From the customer journey perspective, how do they first learn about your company, and how do they engage with your product or solution? What is motivating them to say yes to bringing your product into the healthcare system? And behavioral. What drives purchases, peer recommendations, or clinical trial results? This all depends on what type of technology or solution that you're coming up with for your startup. Another tip is you can zero in on early adopters as your beachhead. These are people that are going to be more like visionaries, or they are open to new technologies and innovation. For example, Intuitive Surgical targeted top-tier surgeons with this Da Vinci robot, building momentum before broader rollout. Competitive analysis keeps you orientated, and we break it down into 3 layers. First, we have direct competitors. These are companies tackling your exact problem, and you'd be surprised at how much you can learn from them by just tracking from their business perspective, but also their technology perspective. Number 2 is indirect competitors. These are alternatives addressing the same need, but they're doing it differently, like a non-invasive monitor competing with your surgical tool. And number 3, your edge. What is your value proposition? What is your differentiator? Could it be lower cost? For example, it's 15% lower than market. It could have a superior outcome. For example, it is 25% faster recovery. Or is it just a unique tech? These are questions that you need to ask yourself and how you position your solution in the marketplace. Moore's whole product concept stresses on delivering a full solution. So if you're making a device, it is your device plus training, support, and integration. One tip is to conduct a SWOT analysis where it highlights your strengths, such as your patented tech, your weaknesses. For example, you may have a small team, opportunities, perhaps you're targeting a market with an aging population, and then threats. You need to understand the regulatory landscape to see if there's any shifts. Regulations are a defining feature of medtech and life science. In the US, the FDA oversees approvals. For example, this process could average around 3 to 7 years for Class 2 and Class 3 medical devices. If you're making a medical device, you need to map out your 510K or PMA pathway and budget at least $1 to $5 million for compliance. Unlike tech startups, your marketing must be evidence-based. Claims for safety and effectiveness require randomized trials and peer-reviewed studies. Overreach risks fines from other regulating bodies, like when the SEC fined Theranos for $500,000 for fraudulently raising capital. At the end of the day, reference the FDA's guidance to sync your timeline and messaging, and to learn more about the regulatory strategy, please see our regulatory video. Your value proposition hooks early adopters. Now, you need to ask yourself several questions here. Number one, what problem are you trying to solve? You must narrow it down. So for example, your solution may be reducing infection rates in post-op care, not revolutionizing surgery. Question number two is, well, how are you better? Quantify your edge. Having data helps support your case. So for example, a 20% cost cut or 30-minute procedure reduction. Question number three, can you prove it? To address this, you need to have early trial data. So for example, if you do animal studies or go into clinical trials, you could say something such as 95% efficacy in a 50-patient study builds trust. More emphasizes precision. A vague game changer flops. A specific 13% reduction in ventilator days sticks. Test this with focus groups of clinicians or payers to refine your pitch. Size your market with 3 metrics. First is your total addressable market, also known as TAM. This is the global ceiling. For example, the wearable medical device market reached $22 billion in 2023 and is projected at $60 billion by 2030. The next step below that is your serviceable available market, also known as your SAM. This is your practical reach. So for example, this could be the US cardiac monitoring at $8 billion. And lastly, serviceable obtainable market, also known as SOM, your initial target. So for example, your initial target could be 200 cardiologists adopting in 1 year worth $2 million at $10,000 per unit. You want to lean on databases that are available online today, such as IBIS World and Statista reports, to get your data, and you want to calculate your service addressable market by multiplying the buyers by price. This keeps your focus tight. Pricing reflects the value and market stage. Options include value-based pricing, so you're charging for outcomes. For example, Intuitive Surgical Da Vinci system commands $1.5 to $2 million per unit for its precision. Another option is penetration testing. Start low to gain traction, like $500 a unit for early adopters. Or skimming. Launch a very premium product for exclusivity per Moore's early adopter strategy. But here's the Medtech twist. Align with reimbursements. According to a 2023 Deloitte study, life science companies are incorporating pricing and market access decisions more consistently and earlier in the product development process. Engage payers early to avoid missteps. Meet early adopters where they are. For a business model that incorporates business to business rather than business to consumer, prioritize trade shows or journals like Nature Biotechnology. For business to consumer, if relevant, tap into digital ads or patient forums like the Health Unlocked. More advocates starting niche. So for example, a stent maker targeting the American College of Cardiology annual meeting, which is comprised of about 15,000 cardiologists. Chart how customers move from awareness to purchase. In medtech and life science, awareness often starts with peer influence. Specifically, physicians are more likely to trust colleagues over advertisements. And here are the key stages of that customer journey that you should be aware of. Awareness, a journal article or a conference demo. Consideration, clinical data or a pilot program. And finally is decision, procurement approval or reimbursement confirmation. For some target segments, buyers favor educational content, such as white papers or webinars, over sales pitches. Map touchpoints and deliver value at each step. Success requires evolution. Gather feedback from early users. These could be clinicians via surveys, patients via outcomes, or payers via adoption rates. Moore calls this continuous learning. Iterate based on data. If a device cuts procedures by 20%, but training lags, tweak onboarding. Beta testing with 10 to 20 sites can reveal gaps, such as Medtronic used this to refine its pacemakers in the 1990s. Stay agile as tech and needs shift. A great way to really understand and measure your progress from the conversations you're having and the meetings that you're setting up with your potential clients is to measure progress with a customer relationship manager like HubSpot or Salesforce. And with these tools, you want to track certain things such as lead generation, which is the new contacts monthly, your conversion rate, any of those leads that do transition into sales that convert, customer acquisition costs. So this is really the number that is reflective of your marketing and sales spend per customer, your lifetime value of customer, which is your revenue per customer over time, and retention, repeat buyers, or contract renewals. The whole purpose of this is to begin that early documentation of all these conversations you're having. You never know. Even though you're starting early today, down the road, those contacts may be useful as you re-engage conversations. So in closing, market analysis in medtech and life science is your roadmap to impact. Master your market, segment strategically, outmaneuver competitors, and navigate regulations, and sharpen your value proposition. Moore's Crossing the Chasm is a great example of a playbook. Use it to leap from early wins to mainstream success.